You will never get rich until you face this. You will never build wealth until you confront the thing you've spent years running from. You can read every book, write every plan, and study every principle. But as long as there is something within you that you refuse to confront, something you hope will disappear on its own, you will stay poor. Poverty is not just a financial condition, it is a symptom of spiritual avoidance. It is the outer reflection of the man who hides, the man who avoids responsibility, the man who lies to himself, the man who builds 1,000 goals, but never confronts the one enemy that lives in his own mirror. I have studied the richest men of our time, Carnegie, Ford, Rockefeller, Edison. Not one of them began with great wealth. Not one of them started with approval or applause. But what they all did, what separated them from the millions who stayed small, was this. They were willing to face what other men avoided. They looked at their own fear, their own indiscipline, their own hesitation, and they declared war on it. You cannot rise until you face yourself. You cannot build until you confront yourself. You will never get rich until you deal with the weakness you pretend is not there. Most men are not defeated by the world. They are defeated by denial. The denial of how they spend their time. The denial of their inconsistency. The denial of their emotional weakness. They dress it in distraction, justify it with intellect, and drown it in endless learning. But deep inside, they know there is something they are still running from. This message is not designed to make you feel good. It is not for entertainment. It is a confrontation, and the moment you feel defensive is the moment you should lean in, because I am not speaking to the man you pretend to be. I'm speaking to the part of you that knows you've been hiding. There is a version of you that is ready to rise, but he cannot live until the old version dies. And the only way that happens is when you face what you've avoided for too long. Let me tell you what I've learned. Riches do not obey the clever, the talented, or the man who wishes, hopes, or dreams. They obey the man who looks at himself without flinching, who tears out every lie, every excuse, every delay, and replaces them with discipline, decision, and truth. And here is the truth. Your current condition is not random. It is the result of what you've tolerated, what you've justified, what you've failed to face. You are not tired. You are undisciplined. You are not stuck. You are indecisive. You are not confused. You are avoiding clarity because clarity demands action. But that ends now. This is the line. And this is where you either retreat and stay the same, or face what must be faced and become the man you were meant to be. Do not tell me you want to be wealthy while you still avoid your mirror. Do not speak of success while you still postpone your standards. Do not say someday when the truth is you haven't even started facing what's in the way. I will show you the law. I will walk you through every layer of what's been holding you down. I will give you the steps, the principles, the structure, but none of it will work unless you first look inward and say, I will no longer run. I will no longer hide. I will no longer excuse. Say this now. I face what others flee. I cannot rise until I confront. Again, I face what others flee. I cannot rise until I confront. These words are not declarations of ambition. They are spiritual keys. They unlock the door between the man who talks and the man who does, between the man who fantasizes and the man who finishes, between the man who blames and the man who builds. So if you are ready to rise, face this, because you will never get rich until you do. Now let us begin. Poverty does not chase men. Riches do not hide. Both obey thought. Both are attracted or repelled by the invisible state of your inner world. You may say you want success, but if your thoughts are filled with contradiction, if your beliefs are poisoned by fear, if your emotions are disordered, riches will not come to you, not because they are scarce, but because you are not yet a fit place for them to stay. Riches do not flee from men, they are repelled by inner contradiction. The man who says, I want to be rich, but walks like a beggar will repel repel wealth. The man who dreams of freedom but fears decision will repel wealth. The man who speaks of greatness but doubts himself in private will repel wealth. You may not see this happening, but the law sees it. The subconscious sees it, and the universe obeys law. I have told you before, and I tell you again, your only limitation is the one you accept in your own mind. If you are poor, not just financially, but poor in peace, poor in purpose, poor in power, it is not because of your job, your city, or your past. It is because of your inner world. Inside you right now are forces either working for you or against you. Most men are ruled by them and do not even know their names. I gave them names in my early work. I called them the 6 ghosts of fear. These 6 are not mere emotions. They are spiritual blockades. They are invisible prisons and the true cause of almost every failed life. Let me name them again for you. The fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, the fear of death. But the first 3, poverty, criticism, and ill health, are the most vicious when it comes to repelling wealth. The fear of poverty is the silent slave master of millions. It hides behind caution, behind safety, behind reasonable decisions. It causes men to take small steps, to choose the easy road, to prevent risk. It whispers, "What if you lose it all?" And so, the man never dares to gain anything. But here is the truth. You are already poor if fear controls you. The fear of criticism is the reason most men never begin. They are not afraid of failure. They are afraid someone will see them fail. They are ruled by the opinions of those who are not building anything. They lower their voice, hide their fire, and trade their destiny for comfort in a crowd that secretly envies their courage, but will never admit it. You must stop caring what weak men think about strong moves. Let them laugh. Let them scoff. Let them pretend you've lost your mind. You are not here to be approved. You are here to become. The fear of ill health is the fear of breaking down. It creates anxiety, hesitation, and obsession with self-preservation. It causes men to waste years preparing to one day begin, only to find they have grown too old in delay. But what they missed is this: a man who moves with conviction is already healthier than the one who lives in fear. You must stop believing that avoiding pain is the path to power. It is not. Pain is the price. Risk is the gate. Discipline is the cure. Now listen closely, because this is the law. When fear is your master, wealth will never serve you. It cannot. You have not created the inner order to sustain it. You have not earned the clarity to direct it. You have not become the man who can be trusted with it. It is not money that is hard to earn. It is belief that is hard to maintain. The man who is at war with himself, who fears one moment and hopes the next, who builds with one hand and destroys with the other, will always be poor. Even if money lands in his hand, it will flee because he has not resolved the contradiction in his soul. You must now look inward, not with emotion, not with guilt, but with precision. You must find every thought that resists the image of wealth, every belief that whispers, "You are not worthy," every behavior that makes you a stranger to discipline, and you must destroy it, not gradually, but immediately. There is no victory without self-confrontation. You cannot become wealthy on the outside while remaining chaotic within. That is not how the law works. That is not how identity works. That is not how power works. You must become a fortress, a pillar, a man whose thoughts are clear, whose words are aligned, whose actions reflect a settled decision, a man who has faced every shadow and refused to let any one of them rule him. Say this now: I will not excuse the weakness within me. My thoughts attract or repel wealth. Again, I will not excuse the weakness within me. My thoughts attract or repel wealth. You must say this every morning until your mind is clear. You must say it every night until your subconscious obeys. Because You are not poor by chance. You are poor by thought, by tolerated fear, by the contradiction that lives in your chest and speaks louder than your plans. But the moment you face it, all of it, you become dangerous. You become clear, you become magnetic. You become the kind of man that wealth no longer avoids but chases. This is not theory, this is spiritual law. The root of poverty is always within, and the man who has the courage to pull it out will never be the same. Let us face the next truth. You cannot outperform the identity you refuse to face. You can read every book, attend every seminar, memorize every principle of success, but you will never rise above the image you carry of yourself in secret. The mind obeys belief, the body obeys identity, and the universe obeys the signal you send through the man you are, not the one you pretend to be. This is the deception that has enslaved more men than ignorance ever could. If I learn more, I'll succeed. No, you will not. Not until you become more. Not until you become the kind of man whose habits, language, attitude, and direction reflect identity, not just ambition. You cannot outrun your reflection, and every time you try to build a greater future on top of an unchanged identity, you are constructing on sand. You will rise for a season, feel the fire for a time, but your old self will collapse the new structure because you never dethroned him. You never faced him. You must face him now. The truth is this: identity sets the ceiling of every man's life. You may want a 10-story future, but if your self-image is built for 3, you will never exceed it. You will sabotage it. You will doubt it. You will feel like an imposter. And the moment resistance comes, you will say, maybe I was never meant for this. Not because the vision was wrong, but because your inner governor would not let you live above the level of belief you secretly carry. Let me speak to you clearly. If your current results are small, it is not because your dreams are too big. It is because your self-permission is too low. You have upgraded your tools, your network, even your language, but you have not upgraded the image you hold of yourself when no one is looking. Until you do, you are building a palace on weak soil, and the law will not let that structure stand. Let me show you the example of Edwin C. Barnes, the man who became Thomas Edison's partner, not because of experience, not because of training, not because of pedigree, but because of identity. He walked into Edison's world, unknown and uninvited. What made Edison look twice? Barnes saw himself as an equal long before anyone else did. He was not posturing. He was not pretending. He had already assumed the identity of business partner, not assistant, not employee, not admirer, partner, because he carried that assumption in his tone, in his appearance, in his composure. The opportunity formed around his image. Edison didn't give him a role. Barnes's identity forced a role to appear. That is the law. You don't wait for identity to be validated. You assume it, wear it, reinforce it, and the world must reflect it. But most men never reach this point. Why? Because they refuse to face the truth. They lie to themselves about who they are. They pretend to be further than they are. They say they are kings, while their daily actions reflect beggars. They speak of wealth, while their calendar reflects confusion. They declare discipline, while their mornings reflect chaos. And the worst part? They know it. It is not the lie you tell the world that weakens you. It is the lie you whisper to yourself, the lie that says, I'm close. The lie that says, I'm doing my best. The lie that says, I'm waiting for the right moment. But here's the truth. You are not waiting for the right moment. You are avoiding the real mirror until you look into that mirror and say, this is who I actually am right now, and this is who I must now become. Nothing will change. You will continue to learn, to plan, to talk, to delay, because you are building a future on top of a man you are secretly ashamed of. But I tell you this, shame is not your master. Fear is not your ruler. Denial is not your home. You can confront that man today. You can tear him out. You can destroy what no longer serves you. You can walk out of that old frame and step into a new one. But you must face it. You must say, I will not lie to myself about who I am. I face my reflection and I rise. Say it again. I will not lie to myself about who I am. I face my reflection and I rise. Let these words become the chisel that breaks through every false image. Let them cut through the performance, tear down the mask, and wake the part of you that knows the man you have been is not the man who will lead you forward. The moment you speak truth to that identity, you will feel the shift. You will feel the old version begin to lose power. You will feel the illusion start to dissolve. In its place, you will feel clarity, not comfort, but clarity. From that clarity comes structure, and from that structure, power. Power belongs to the man who knows who he is and acts accordingly. You are not small, you are not behind, but you are also not where you pretend to be, and that's why the results are delayed. Now, end the delay. The excuse, the negotiation. Face yourself. Replace yourself. Walk as the man who has nothing to hide, and everything will begin to change. Do not tell me what you want. Show me your day. What you truly believe is not written on a vision board. It is written in your calendar, in your routine, in the choices you make when no one is watching. Your days are your signature. Your structure is your statement of faith. If your habits do not reflect discipline, clarity, and motion toward your goal, you are not building wealth. You are avoiding it. Every man has a plan until it costs him comfort. Every man has a dream until the work becomes daily. But the man who wins, the man who becomes wealthy, is the man whose belief is visible in how he spends his hours. His minutes are managed, his direction is deliberate, his discipline is not determined by emotion. He does not chase feelings, he obeys structure. Let me speak plainly. If I look at your day and see no order, no rhythm, no intention, then I already know why you are poor. Wealth does not arrive by accident. It is not given to the man who wishes. It is not earned by the man who only works when inspired. Wealth is the reward for how a man thinks, speaks, decides, and acts consistently, not when he feels like it, not when things go well, not when others are watching, but always. If you say you want riches but sleep through your mornings, you are lying. If you say you want freedom but fill your evenings with distraction, you are lying. If you say you want to lead but drift from one task to another without finishing, you are lying. And worst of all, you are lying to yourself. The truth is this: your life right now is the result of what you've allowed. The man you are is built not by intention, but by habit. And those habits are either pulling you toward wealth or guaranteeing your continued frustration. You must now face the way you've been living. Not the highlights, not the plan, but the pattern. You wake up without urgency. You scroll instead of prepare. You react instead of initiate. You speak of goals without the habits to match them. Every day you repeat these invisible betrayals. You tell the universe, I am not ready yet. Look at Henry Ford. The man was not the most educated. He was not the most connected. But what he had was focus. While others chased complexity, he pursued simplicity. While others tried to be impressive, he tried to be effective. While others spent their day reacting to noise, Ford spent his days refining motion, system, and delivery. He kept building when others got bored. He stayed in one lane while the rest scattered. The result: a fortune, a legacy, a product that outlived the men who laughed at him. Now I ask you, what are you building that will outlive your excuses? What do your mornings produce? What do your evenings reinforce? What is the daily rhythm of your belief? Do not look for magic. Look for consistency. Do not search for breakthrough. Search for repetition. Your day is either your ladder or your leash. If you are honest, you will admit most of your days are Leaking energy, leaking time, leaking power, you drift from one task to another without declaring war on your distractions. You begin the morning without speaking your aim aloud. You go to bed without review, without correction, without reinforcement. And then you wonder why the money doesn't arrive. It's not because you're unlucky, it's because you're undisciplined. You cannot afford to drift another day. You cannot continue to pretend that your goals will somehow rise above your patterns. They will not. The law will not let them. Wealth is not for the clever, it is for the consistent. Say this now. My habits reveal my value. I cannot afford to drift another day. Again, my habits reveal my value. I cannot afford to drift another day. Let these words become a mirror. Let them follow you into the morning. Let them interrupt your drift. Let them whisper into your spine when you reach for something that pulls you off course. One more wasted hour is not just time. It is a crack in your future. From this point forward, your schedule becomes sacred. Your time becomes governed. Your identity becomes evident, not in what you say, but in how you live. You will rise with aim. You will speak with clarity. You will act with order. You will close the day with proof. If you fail, you will correct. Quickly, not tomorrow, not later now, because every moment matters to the man who knows his time is limited and his calling is real. This is what separates the rich from the restless, the wealthy from the wandering, the great from the drifting. Structure, pattern, rhythm, presence. This is the way you rise. Discipline is not punishment. It is not repression. It is not misery. Discipline is the gate. It is the barrier between the man who talks about success and the man who walks into it. The truth that most men never face is this. Every result you want is guarded by a discipline you've been avoiding. You speak of wealth, dream of freedom, hunger for greatness, but you ignore the pattern that builds all three. You avoid structure. You delay the system. You flirt with effort but refuse routine. You confuse motion with movement. You call yourself focused while changing plans every month, and yet you still ask why the results are slow. The answer is simple. The gate is still closed because you've refused the key. If you've avoided discipline, you've avoided success, not by accident but by design. The laws of the universe are not broken by chaos. They are broken by drift. Drift is always a symptom of untrained desire. You want the reward without the rhythm. You want the gain without the guard. But there is no other path. You either take hold of discipline or you stand in front of the gate, poor and proud. I will say what others will not. There is no greatness without structure. You do not rise by inspiration. You rise by obedience to yourself, to your word, to the image of the man you have declared in your vision, written on paper, imagined in solitude. That man does not arrive on the back of random effort. He arrives through the narrow path of repeated command. Look at Andrew Carnegie, one of the most powerful and strategic minds the world has ever known. He was not merely a builder of steel, he was a builder of men. He did not trust everyone. He trusted those who were mentally trained, men who could command themselves, men who did not need to be reminded, men who rose early, stayed late, and tracked every hour like it mattered, because it did. When Carnegie saw a man whose habits were scattered, whose energy was reactive, whose discipline was emotional, he knew one thing: this man cannot be trusted with responsibility. He understood what most still deny. Wealth is not just about output, it is about internal order. A man who lacks discipline will always fumble opportunity. Even if the door opens, he will walk in unprepared. Even if the money comes, he will not know how to hold it. Even if the vision appears, he will not have the habits to match the weight of his own dream. The blessing becomes a burden. The chance becomes a chain, and the man who refused the gatekeeper becomes a victim of the very success he pretended to chase. You must now ask yourself, what discipline have I been resisting? That is the gate you have yet to walk through. Is it waking on time, speaking your aim aloud, maintaining your physical strength, tracking your finances with clarity, writing your plans daily, returning to your work without distraction, holding your thoughts accountable, speaking less and delivering more? Whatever you resist most is your doorway. Until you stop walking around it, you will never walk through it. This is what I have seen in every man who has risen. He trained himself to love the discipline others avoided. He did what was boring, and he did it with power. He repeated what others abandoned. He returned to the fundamentals long after others chased novelty. He stopped asking for new tools and mastered the old ones. What happens when you do this? The gate opens. You no longer knock. You walk in, not because you were lucky, not because you were chosen, but because you obeyed the structure, and the structure cannot deny the man who repeats it long enough. Let me now tell you the truth. You must write down every excuse. Every excuse is a wall, and every day you delay the discipline, the wall becomes thicker, until one day you look around and realize your entire life is surrounded by everything you justified, defended, and postponed. But today, you break the wall. Today, you find the gate. Today, you walk through it, not with noise, not with fanfare, but with decision, with structure, with law. Say this now: I do what I resist first. Discipline is the gate to riches. Again, I do what I resist first. Discipline is the gate to riches. These words are not motivation, they are correction. They are the reprogramming of the man who used to follow emotion, who only acted when it felt good, who built inconsistently and wondered why nothing stayed. That man is done. He has no future and he has no power. But the man you are now becoming, the man who chooses what must be done regardless of mood, regardless of outcome, that man is unstoppable. Who want wealth, obey structure. You want peace, honor repetition. You want freedom, master rhythm. Discipline is not the enemy, it is your inheritance. It is the system by which you become worthy of the thing you desire. When you embrace it, everything begins to align. The fog lifts, the future clears, the energy returns. For the first time in your life, your actions are not betraying your vision, they are building it. Now look at what you've avoided. Write it down, act on it. Today, and do it again tomorrow. That is the man who gets rich. That is the man who walks through the gate. You were not born to be ruled by your feelings. You were not built to follow emotion. You were made to command your life through law, not mood, decision, not reaction, principle, not preference. But if you are still waiting to feel ready, to feel strong, to feel inspired, I will tell you now, you will remain poor. Not because you lack talent, not because the opportunity isn't real, but because you gave emotion the authority that belongs. To obedience, emotion is not an excuse. If it is still governing your action, your pace, your routine, then you are not leading your life. You are being led by weakness. You are being guided by noise. Your days change depending on your mood. Your productivity rises and falls with your spirit. Your success comes in waves of effort, followed by droughts of indifference. Wealth will not reward that kind of man. The truth most men cannot bear is this: you do not have to feel like it to do it. The task does not require your mood. The standard does not ask for your approval. The aim you declared when you were on fire does not need your permission now that you are tired. In fact, that is the very moment that defines you. When the inspiration is gone, but the man remains. When the crowd disappears, but the work continues. When the feeling fades, but you do not. There is a great lie in modern thinking that how you feel is who you are, that emotions are sacred, and to act against them is to be inauthentic. But I will tell you the truth, as I have lived it, studied it, and taught it to thousands across the world. Your emotions are not your identity. They are indicators. They are noise, they are dust in the wind of your purpose. If you are ruled by them, you are ruled by the most unstable force in your life. Do you know what emotion is? It is a reflection of past belief, present interpretation, and unconscious fear. It is often the voice of yesterday trying to stop the man you said you'd become tomorrow. Emotion will tell you, not today. Emotion will whisper, you're tired. Emotion will plead, let's wait. If you listen, if you treat that voice as truth, you give away your power one moment at a time until there's nothing left to show. Listen closely. Men who wait for motivation stay poor. They become excellent at intention and terrible at follow-through. They speak of potential but have nothing to prove it. They make promises that their discipline cannot cash because they only move when the sun is shining, when the applause is loud, when the path is easy. They build nothing that lasts, but the man who acts through resistance, he builds fortunes. Not just in finance, but in character, in focus, in ability, in authority. Why? Because he has trained himself to obey law, not emotion. He has decided that his standard is not how he feels. His standard is what he declared. Let me show you a man who lived this. Abraham Lincoln. You know him as a president, a liberator, a giant of leadership. But what few understand is this. Lincoln suffered. He was tormented by melancholy, betrayed by friends, misunderstood by allies, attacked by his enemies. At times he was deeply alone. But did he stop? Did he let emotion run his decisions? Did he allow darkness to dictate his actions? No. He led with principle. He rose above mood. He obeyed the truth. He did not ask himself, do I feel like doing this today? He asked, what does the law of right demand of me today? And then he did it. You must live the same way, because you cannot command money if you are ruled by mood. You cannot hold power if your feelings lead the way. You cannot walk in authority if your mornings begin with negotiation. The man who commands. His environment is not the one with the loudest vision. It is the one with the strongest constitution, the one who does what is required, no matter what he feels in the moment. Emotion is the reason most men quit too soon. They begin with fire and end in frustration. They sprint the first mile and collapse halfway through the race, not because they couldn't finish, but because they believed the lie that says, if it feels hard, it must be wrong. Success is not comfortable. It is cold, early, repetitive, and often invisible at first. It does not hand out trophies for partial effort. It gives harvest to the man who shows up after the inspiration is gone. Let me be clear, you are not emotionless, but you must not be emotion-led. Feelings will come, let them. Feelings will go, let them. But the standard must remain. The action must remain. The schedule must remain. That is who you really are, not what you feel, but what you repeat. Say this now. My standard is not how I feel. My standard is what I declared. I rise by law, not by emotion. Again, my standard is not how I feel. My standard is what I declared. I rise by law, not by emotion. Say it until your nervous system obeys. Say it until your subconscious believes you. Say it until the next time you feel tired and your body moves anyway. That is the man who wins, not the one who is always on fire, but the one who burns anyway. If your structure crumbles when you're anxious, it was never structure, it was a wish. If your discipline dies when you're uninspired, it was never discipline. It was performance. If your goal only matters when you're in the mood, you are not committed. You are pretending, but that ends now. From this point forward, your day begins with rhythm. Your action follows law. Your words match your schedule. Your vision is no longer conditional. It is final. No more waiting to feel like it. No more checking in with doubt before you act. No more building when inspired and retreating when the feeling fades. You are no longer that man. You are the man who acts because he said so. You are the man who keeps walking while others sleep. You are the man who closes the door on his feelings and opens the door to his future. You are the man who rises by law. You may think riches begin with money, with connections, with skill. That is the illusion. That is the excuse men use to avoid the real work. Wealth begins and ends with self-mastery. You may attract a few dollars without it. You may fool some people, find a temporary win, catch a moment of luck. But no fortune will stay. No vision will last. No kingdom will rise that is not first built on the command of self. It is not enough to want more. You must become more, not externally, but internally. Money is not held by the most excited man, the most talented man, or the most educated man. It is held by the man who governs his thoughts like a general governs his army, by the man whose emotions are trained, whose time is protected, whose habits are ordered. The man who is not ruled by impulse, distraction, or weakness, but by law, by rhythm, and by inner force. If that is not yet you, then that is why your wealth has not arrived. No one proves this more clearly than the men whose names have stood the test of time. Thomas Edison, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie. These were not perfect men, but they were mastered men. They were not free of hardship. They were not immune to struggle, but they lived under personal command. They obeyed internal law. They trained their habits with religious devotion. Because of this, riches flowed toward them, not as a surprise, but as a certainty. Edison did not invent the electric light because he was lucky. He invented it because he lived in obedience to principle. His rhythm was non-negotiable. His focus was absolute. His identity was built through 10,000 repeated actions that lesser men would have abandoned. Rockefeller was not merely a businessman. He was a man of unshakable routine, discipline, and composure. While others spent, he saved. While others flinched, he acted. While others were ruled by markets, he was ruled by internal order. And so, the markets eventually obeyed him. Carnegie, whose empire of steel was only possible because he mastered men, began by first mastering himself. He studied his own mind, trained his focus, acted with timing, and surrounded himself only with those who also lived by law. These men did not wish for mastery. They chose it. They accepted the lifelong cost of self-government. And in return, the universe opened itself to them, not through accident, but through alignment. Let me tell you plainly, until you master self, you cannot master circumstance. Until you govern your habits, you will be governed by problems. Until you lead your time, you will be led by emotion. Until you conquer the disordered man within, the world outside will always be unstable. Do not blame the economy. Do not blame the season. Do not blame your job, your partner, your town, your upbringing. If you are still blaming, you are still hiding, and the man who hides from himself repels wealth, because the law cannot reward confusion. The law rewards clarity, alignment, direction, discipline, choices made on the battlefield of the inner life. The world is full of men who say they are ready for success. They are not. They are ready to feel good. They are ready to be seen. They are ready to perform when praised. But they are not ready to confront the laziness that lingers in their rituals. They are not ready to remove the softness from their mornings. They are not ready to remove emotion from their calendar. They are not ready to stand in the mirror and say, I am the reason my life is not yet what I declared. But if you are reading this now and your heart is beating, you are ready. Because something in you knows that the distance between where you are and where you want to be is not external. It is internal. It is not in a course, a book, or a strategy. It is in how you govern yourself when no one is watching. This is the truth. Riches are drawn to the man who requires no audience to execute. They move toward the man who needs no applause to rise early, who needs no immediate reward to obey his plan, who does not ask, how do I feel? Before he acts but declares, I act because I said I would. Say this now: I command myself before I command wealth. My fortune flows from my internal order. Again, I command myself before I command wealth. My fortune flows from my internal order. Let these words break the lie that says you are waiting for conditions to change. Let them silence the voice that blames. Let them destroy the excuse that says, once I have more time, more money, more clarity. No. You will never have more of those until you become the man who earns them by force of identity. You do not need more of anything. You need more order. You need more truth. You need more obedience to what you already know must be done. This is not about being hard on yourself. This is about being honest with yourself. Look at your decisions. Do they reflect mastery? Look at your tone. Does it carry direction? Look at your habits. Are they worthy of wealth? If the answer is no, correct. Now, not tomorrow, now. Because every minute you tolerate internal disorder is a minute you delay your inheritance. The rich are not lucky. The rich are not chosen. The rich are not favored. The rich are forged. You forge yourself in fire, the fire of discipline, repetition, self-control, and belief under pressure. You do not have to be perfect, but you must be governed. From this moment forward, you will be, because you are no longer blaming. You are building. You are no longer waiting. You are choosing. You are no longer ruled by feelings. You are ruled by law. You are no longer hoping to one day be rich. You are becoming the man who cannot be anything but. There is no escape, only delay. There is no alternate path, no detour, no secret tunnel. If you do not face what must be faced, now life will force you to face it later. When it comes later, it will not arrive as a whisper. It will arrive as pain, as loss, as regret. It will show up with bills you didn't expect and burdens you could have avoided, not because life is cruel, but because you postponed your obedience to truth. Every weakness you ignore today will collect interest and bill you in the future. It will come at the exact moment you are least prepared to pay it, when you have built just enough to lose something real, when the people who trusted you are watching, when you've climbed just high enough to make the fall devastating. That's when the truth you avoided shows up and says, now we settle this. You may not see it now, but look around. Look at the men who failed late in life, the men who seemed strong but collapsed, the men who built empires but were destroyed by a single secret flaw, the men who inspired millions but couldn't rule themselves. Do you think that happened suddenly? Do you think their collapse was random? No, it was delayed discipline, delayed truth, a quiet weakness ignored long enough that it grew strong enough to end them. This is why I tell you now, if you are still running from the mirror, your destruction has already begun. It may not be visible yet, but it is forming. It is growing in the soil of your denial, and it will come for you, not to punish you, but to force the confrontation you refuse to choose. You think this message is intense. It's supposed to be, because time is not slowing down, and neither is the cost of your delay. Your days are not waiting. The door to your future is not holding itself open forever. Every moment you spend in hesitation is one more brick added to the wall between you and your wealth. This is the truth. Every man either disciplines himself or is destroyed by what he refused to confront. You either confront the lie now, or the lie collapses everything you built later. You either build the habit now, or the habit you refuse. To build becomes the reason for your downfall. You either walk through the pain now, or it walks into your life later as a master instead of a teacher. The men who build, the men who rise, the men who last, they did not wait to face themselves. They paid the price early. They stood in front of their fear when it was still small. They killed the weakness when it was still easy to control. Because they did, their foundation became unshakable. But the men who run, the men who avoid, the men who say, one day I'll deal with this, become slaves to the very thing they once could have mastered. If that is still you, you must stop now. You must stop hoping life will get easier. It won't. You must stop praying. that success will come without structure. It won't. You must stop pretending that your delay is harmless. It isn't. Your delay is expensive and the bill is coming. It may show up as missed opportunity, lost confidence, wasted years, or relationships that deteriorate under the weight of your inaction. But it will show up because truth does not disappear when ignored. It only grows in power, waiting for the moment to teach you what you should have faced when it was still a decision instead of a disaster. Let me ask you now, what are you still avoiding? The early mornings you said you would start? The plan you promised yourself you would follow? The emotion you use as an excuse to skip the work? The distraction you still pretend is a reward? The habit you know is killing your consistency? Face it now. There is no more time for avoidance. Not if you want to be wealthy, not if you want peace, not if you want to look at your reflection and say, that is a man who can be trusted with power. Power will not trust the man who hides. Wealth will not stay in the hands of the man who lives in denial. You must now declare, I pay the price now or I pay it forever. Say it again, I pay the price now or I pay it forever. There is no wealth without truth. Let those words strip away the mask. Let them interrupt the delay. Let them burn away the illusion that you are getting away with anything. You are not. No man ever does. He may appear to win for a time, but if the foundation is rotting, the collapse is inevitable. The deeper the success, the more brutal the fall. You do not want that, and you do not have to have it, but you must. Act now. Confront the weakness. Confront the delay. Confront the lie. Don't explain it. Don't defend it. Don't hide it behind another quote or another reason. Face it and destroy it, because you are either building a future or delaying a fall. There is no third option, no middle road, no balance between avoidance and mastery. This is the moment. If you miss it, it may never come again. If you walk away from this truth now, you will carry the weight of knowing you had a chance to change and didn't take it. So take it. Say it again. I pay the price now or I pay it forever. There is no wealth without truth. Now choose the pain of discipline or inherit the pain of regret. The man who faces what others avoid becomes what others admire. That is the law. Not the most gifted, not the loudest, not the man with the cleverest plan or the widest network, but the man who stands in front of the very thing that breaks other men and refuses to flinch. The man who says, I will face this because nothing grows in shadow. The man who builds his wealth, his identity, his discipline in the full light of personal responsibility. This has always been the difference. Not talent, not education, but confrontation. The willingness to go where it hurts, the determination to walk straight into discomfort, the resolve to stop postponing power, the refusal to delay truth. That man becomes unshakable.